Well, government is giving mining companies the green light to generate electricity for their own use. Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe revealed this earlier today at the African Mining Indaba happening in Cape Town. Now, the mining industry asked to generate its own electricity as load shedding has affected production. Let's get some analysis on this with the energy expert Mohamed Madhi joining us this evening. Mohamed, thank you so much for your time. So how viable is this? I mean, like we say, mining companies been asking for this. How do they do this?
There's a host of ways mining companies can do this, and it's extremely viable. It's also overdue. And, in this country, fortunately, we have a great deal of renewable energy resource. We have some gas availability, and then we have clean coal. So there are options available to mining companies to provide own generation, and the sooner the better.
So, what you would have to ask, if mining companies are able to do this, wouldn't they be able to provide some sort of answer for the rest of us when it comes to, they can do it for themselves, what's stopping us from harnessing that as well for the rest of the country?
Look, providing power for own use and being a utility are two completely different things. So certainly mining companies should be allowed to feed electricity back into the grid and be credited for that, or get a revenue stream out of that. But the problem that we need solving goes far beyond the capabilities of most mining companies.
Okay, so they could do it for themselves, but not at on such a large scale.
They don't have the experience, they don't have the capability, and they're not utilities, and it's not their business model. So it would take a fundamental shift in their business model and in their purpose to start providing electricity for the country.
Okay, the other issue coming out of there is Gwede Mantashe also saying that, government is going to talk to investors to start a generating company outside of Eskom. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. Would they be able to manage that is the question. I mean, you have to ask that now because, I mean, Eskom has been, a thorn in the side for how many years now? And to add something else to your plate when you can't fix the one thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that needs a little bit of unpacking. So I think it's a good thing that, government is looking at increasing competition. It's absolutely needed in the industry and in the country right now. I think where there's possibly some rethinking required is that government needs to create that entity. So government is not good at creating new entities or running businesses. Government is supposed to be good at governing. And I think what should happen is government creates the environment for companies to grow up, to come to the party and to be able to provide electricity as a utility. And that's what government should do, and that enabling environment, which we've always spoken about, that enabling environment. Not creating new companies by themselves.
Okay. So at the moment, not something that I'm going to ask that they're capable of doing at the moment.
I think we know the answer to that, unfortunately.
I just wanted to see if we were on the same page there. Okay, well, let's hope. But just back to the mining industry creating its own. I mean, would there have to be what sort of controls would have to be put in place for that to happen? I mean, or should we just leave mining companies to do their own thing?
So bear in mind, we come from an industry and a country that is overregulated in many ways. And the first thing, that industry looks at and the country looks at is, what are the controls? What's going to happen here? We need to ease up a little bit on those controls. Okay. They're providing power for themselves. There are sufficient regulatory safety nets in place for them to do this safely and for them to feed power back into the grid as well.
So to your knowledge, are most mining companies able to start this tomorrow? Would they be able to start working on this?
I think they certainly would be able to. They'd be very keen to. Remember, they don't need the competence in-house. So they would use a host of expert companies to come and do this for them. And that expertise sits in this country. Very deep, very good expertise in this country and outside the borders of this country. So mining companies have the capability and the know-how to manage this and to start the process of developing own generation.
And I mean, just very quickly, what's the massive boost that we could get from this? What's the massive advantage of having them do this? And are there any disadvantages to having mining companies do this?
I think the advantages far outweigh any potential disadvantages. First and foremost, we'd get a good idea of what the private sector can produce electricity at. And that will be a great benchmark against Eskom and against the municipalities. And that brings the element of competition into the economy, into the country, and it gives us an idea as a consumer what we should also be lobbying for, what we should be asking for. What it also does is it provides mining companies with a degree of certainty around some of their costs. And that helps with the future projections of those companies, the investor confidence in those companies, and the investor confidence in the country. You know, we often talk about beneficiation in this country. One of the keys to beneficiation is cheap power. If mining companies have cheap power, it is one of the pieces of the puzzle to unlock beneficiation in this country.
Would be a nice test case, I suppose, as well, to see how that works. Okay, well, let's see how it pans out, and let's see who'd be first off the starting block for that one. Thanks very much, Mohamed Madhi, energy expert here.